So today I wanted to talk about this. Is the American dream over? You know, and I guess, so everybody has a different idea as to what the American dream actually is. But, you know, I hear a lot of people, you know, they're saying, well, the American dream's over, you know, and so you have to ask yourself, what is the American dream? You know, and so one person that I was listening to, you know, the American dream to him was, you know, being able to afford a home, you know, having I guess, good health, you know, those kind of things. And which to me is definitely, yeah, it's the American dream, I would say, for most people. But the other part of that equation is, you know, so this person was in their 60s. And I just know for myself, I've come in contact over the years with a lot of people, you know, and it's the same scenario over and over and over that I've run into. And I'm going to just give you an example of that scenario. So if I go back about 10 years in time, you know, I've met people where if they were going to purchase a home, that house payment, maybe it was going to be $700, $700 per month. Now this is going back in time, you know, like I said, about 10 years or so, at least. And but they could rent that same property for about $550, you know. And so even though they qualified to purchase that house with the $700 payment, they didn't want to spend that extra amount. You know, even though the property, they knew that there was an appreciation factor there, you know, maybe the property was going up on average. In California, over the years, most of the properties have appreciated at least 5% per year. You know, I'm just throwing these numbers out there, so don't quote me on all this stuff. But so rather than, you know, rather than that person put their neck out just a little bit, you know, and make that plunge so that they could actually own a home, well, they continue to rent, you know, and so they could have had the American dream 40 years ago, but they didn't. They chose to continue to rent. And I don't mean to sound like I'm ragging on people that, you know, rent forever, but, you know, here it is now, let's say, you know, 30 years later, depending on the person's age, you know, but they're complaining the American dream is not attainable, you know, and my thought is on this is that, you know, you need to make sacrifices in life to get ahead, you know, to get that to have that American dream. If, you know, if your dream is just to own one home and have a, you know, a steady job, well, you might be able to get that one home, but now there are no guarantees as far as having a steady job. You know, a lot of these, a lot of the job losses, they are caused by automation. You know, it's not always because the jobs are being relocated to other countries. You know, so, but if you're the owner of a company I mean, let's be real about this. If you have a company and you can produce that product in another country and have larger profits, you know, if you think, you know, that any company is not going to do that, you know, you're kidding yourself. And if you think that, you know, billionaires and stuff are, if you believe that they're out there, you know, looking out for the low person on the totem pole, so to speak, you're kidding yourself about that too. You know, it just doesn't happen. It's not real. And you know, the only person that's responsible for how you end up in life is yourself, with the decisions that you make. You don't there is no free ride, you know, and at some point you do need to take a risk or two in order to get ahead, you know. So yeah, at least that's the way it's always been in the US, you know. So yeah, is the American dream, is it out of touch now? I don't think so. No, I think you can still have the American dream, but you also need to ask yourself, you know, what is reality? What's realistic? You know, is the American dream just to have that little house that you're thinking of that you saw in the 1940s on, you know, Leave It to Beaver, or the Cleavers, or, you know, Green Acres? You know, if that's the American dream to you, well then, yeah, you probably can't get that American dream anymore. You need to think a little bit out of the box. And you know, I don't mean to be a downer on this, but I'm being realistic. You know, if you're no matter what age you're at, you know, you need to make sacrifices in order to obtain that American dream. And then also, you know, what is the American dream to you? Is it to just have that one little tiny house with the white picket fence? Or would you prefer to maybe have 10 homes, you know, as rental properties, that kind of thing? For me, that would be a better American dream than just being satisfied with staying in one little small town your whole life, never moving to get ahead, never doing anything to get ahead, really, other than, you know, hope that the money tree shakes dollars into your lap, you know. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the American dream. And you know, please let me know what you think and what your thoughts are on this. And again, I feel like the American dream is always there. You just may need to work a little bit harder to obtain it. And if you're living in an area that's extremely expensive, then move to a cheaper area, so you know, so that you can have a chance of having that American dream, if that's what you want. You know, but if you stay in the same place just because that's in your comfort zone, then don't blame anybody but yourself if you don't reach, you know, if you don't get the American dream. You know, if you want to be a renter your whole life, that's fine, but don't complain about it. You chose that position in life. These are just my thoughts. Could be right, could be wrong. It, you know, it's all where your, you know, what you're thinking, what depends on your perspective in life. So hopefully it gives you something to think about. But I'll tell you, you know, you don't want to wait till you're in your 60s and then complain that, oh, I should have bought a house 30 years ago. I waited too long. Yeah, you probably did, you know. So, but it's never too late. You know, if you're going to retire in the Philippines or Thailand or something, don't think that those rents are always going to stay low, because they're not. And don't think that your Social Security is always going to be guaranteed, because there's no guarantees in life, you know, and yeah, there just aren't. So, all right. Hey, thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.